officially Assemblyman Jeff Gonzalez. Welcome back. Congratulations, sir, on your big win.
Do you have your applause? We need the applause sound effect.
I've made it to the big kids table.
It's actually a really big deal. Like, I know we're kind of like, oh, congratulations. Now you get to give your speech, but you flipped a seat.
Yes. So we flipped a seat.
Talk all the things.
Everyone's been asking me, how did you flip this deep blue seat and make it a red seat? Man, I kind of pushed back on that. Yes, I am a Republican. Yes, you look at it blue to red, but really I brought it from blue to community, blue back to common sense, blue to values. I told people, leave all this Republican Democrat stuff to the side. There's work to be done. And if you're thinking partisan first, we're never going to get it done. I'm not changing my values or who I am. This is what I believe. But I think we need to come together to make some things happen and get some solutions in play. And it resonated because California is just not winning.
Yeah, well, before we get all into that, for those who are new to the podcast, give us a 30-second rundown of who you are, who you represent now, and then we can launch into the whole story, the whole backstory, your plans for the future, how it was, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, Jeff Gonzalez, I was the candidate. Now I am the assembly member for the 36th Assembly District, which encompasses portions of Riverside County, all of Imperial County, and portions of San Bernardino County. I go all the way down to the border of Mexico, east to the border of Arizona, and as far west as Indio. And I'm also down into the Temecula Valley area in French Valley and portions beyond. Retired Marine, or Marine that retired, as we like to say. 21 years in the Marine Corps, 4 combat tours, pastor, father, businessman, all around, husband and janitor in my house. Here I am.
All the glamorous jobs,
all
even
the
at home.
Jobs to keep me humble.
They're like, Assemblyman, congratulations, but can you take the garbage out?
No, literally today. So my son is like our garbage. He's responsible for our garbage person. He's 19, but he has a job. And I'm like, hey, are you home today? He's like, I'm not, I'm working. And I'm like, we need a male to take out the garbage. I have a husband. I'm like, where are you?
I was walking my dogs this morning. First, I took out the trash and started walking my dogs. And my neighbor across the street, he looked at me, he goes, joking around, he goes, Assemblyman! Assemblyman! I was like, hey, what's up? He's like, still got you doing work, doesn't she? I was like, she's keeping me humble, buddy.
It doesn't change.
It doesn't change the house.
So when you were last on, you're obviously running. Now you've won. Let's take a little bit of a look back. I'm sure it's been several weeks, probably more than that now. It's been almost coming up on 2 months since they officially, let's just say it's been several weeks. You've had time to decompress. What's the word I'm looking for that they use in the Marines after a mission? Now it's escaping me.
Go to a bar and
go to a bar and have a drink. Debrief afterwards. They get debrief and kind of look back on your campaign and what are some realizations you had in terms of your campaign, whether it was good, whether it was bad, whether you were like, we learned some good things, like this clearly worked, this resonated with people in my district, this did not work, people like, when I got to run for re-election, don't do that again. So give us the good, the bad, and the ugly after debriefing for several weeks now.
Sure. I'll start with the ugly. What didn't work is getting distracted by national news, right? The folks off of First and Main, right in the center of any given town, are worried about what's going on in their town. And I found that if I ever started speaking nationally, they were like, yeah, but I have these issues at home. So I made sure, I quickly started to adjust what I was talking about and focus on the things that were important to the people in the community versus talking about, all the other stuff that the news is talking about. So that was that was the ugly side of it, the bad side of it. But it was a quick readjustment. The good, I think the good was people were ready to get back to old school campaigning, right? Door to door, barbecue to barbecue, quinceañera to quinceañera. They wanted someone present. So many times, and to no fault of, the legislator, we're sending our staff to things and they don't get a chance to really get to know somebody. So because I was there at a billion events, they got to know me, I got to know them, and I became approachable to them. And then I got to hear about their story and their life and their community. So that was the good about the campaign. And I'm definitely not changing that piece. That's who I am. I love being on the ground, and I'll continue doing that.
Before we all hopped on, we were talking about what I said was, I follow you on Instagram and Twitter, X. You were everywhere. You're probably still everywhere. And
yeah. People are like, hey, what are you gonna do after the 6th of November? Like, when are you gonna start back up again? And I said, the 6th of November.
You're like, that's when the job basically. I'm elected, but now I have to work for it. Yeah, I'm an extreme introvert, so like I'm almost exhausted watching it. Like,
I was everywhere. People would ask me, hey, your team is real good on social media. They're trickling out where you are, so it makes it look like you're at all these different things every day. And I'd have to tell people, no, I really am at those things every day. We have a quick turnaround time to make sure that we communicate where we're going. But it's the way I look at it, it's a 12-year campaign. I can't look at it as, hey, I won, relax. People don't want to see that. They want to see hard work. They want to see me earn it, and they want to see me keep it. So it's upon me to make sure that I work hard for them.
Right, because now you have to actually work in the legislator as well as basically run for re-election. Like it's like now it's double.
Absolutely.
On top of still taking out the garbage.
On top of taking out the garbage and walking the dogs, yes, I have to campaign. And I also have to be a legislator. So my multiple hats are in play, and they always have to be in play. I have to look at it like being a hard target, if you will, in the security industry or in force protection in the military. We look at soft targets and hard targets. A soft target is something that a terrorist or someone that wants to attack you, it can easily attack, overrun your position, and then you're done. A hard target is someone who makes it very challenging. Even Alexa is talking right now, I think, in the background. But that's what I want to be, is a hard target. So when they look at my activity, when they look at what I'm doing and the hard work I'm putting in, I want them to think twice and say, do I really want to go against this guy? He's everywhere. So I want to be a hard target for my community.
Yeah, I want to go back to what you said about national politics, because we were discussing last week's episode. We were talking about, the huge shift. Right. Like it's pretty incredible to see. I think I did the math. It's like over 50% of California counties went red as opposed to in the past. And we were asking, is that a Trump effect or is that a California effect? I'm of the belief it's actually a California effect. And I imagine as a candidate running in a presidential election year, it's got to be tough to not be dragged into the national politics, to constantly comment on the national politics when you're just trying to say, hey, look, there's a lot of issues here in California. And like, yes, the presidential election's happening right now. I want to discuss these issues. How tough was that for you out on the campaign trail for people who wanted to keep dragging you into the national politics?
Everyone wanted to drag me into national politics, and I had to readjust their questions and my responses to refocus them on California. There's significant issues happening in California. And if we get distracted by the national piece, we'll never be able to focus on the California piece. So it was a challenge. Everywhere I went, I was, hey, what do you think about this happening in in Ukraine and Russia and all these other pieces. And I said, I would come back and say, well, what do you think about what's happening in Calexico and Imperial and in Coachella? And they'd ask me some questions, and I'd have to refocus them, because honestly, as you know, and as your people watching know, there's a ton of things going on in California that need to be fixed. And if I'm focused on the national, I can't be focused on the California issues.
Right. And your job as a legislator is not to focus on the national.
Right.
For your community.
My job is to focus on delivering for my community in California.
Yeah, it's interesting. I gotta imagine it's got to be tough out there during a presidential year, especially with such a figure as Trump out there. But I was glad to see that we are trending that way. We had looked back at the county map back when Brian Dahle ran for governor, and it looks oddly similar. That was actually Camille found that and shared it with me. And it is interesting to kind of see where we are kind of moving this direction. So I was not surprised to see, I was definitely rooting for you in the election. I was definitely watching your race because you were a guest of the show and you're a good guy. And then Leticia Castillo as well. There was another seat flip. So I was rooting for these seats to flip, but I was not shocked by it, if that makes sense, based on where we are in California. And I think a lot of people gloss over the fact and the accomplishments that candidates like yourself are making here in California and the hard work that you guys are doing, just because they say, oh, well, Trump flipped these counties. And it's like, maybe because a lot of people showed up because it was a presidential election, but people still have to show up and vote for you. Like, that's what I think is amazing. And I think that trend is, I believe the trend is going to continue in that direction. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that point. If Trump flipped these counties, then every county that he flipped, we would have a Republican in there, right? That would kind of be the logical piece. I think it was almost like an enhancement, right? Number one, California is underwater with a whole bunch of different issues. That's the first piece of the puzzle. Number two, nationally, there's issues going on and inflation, so on and so forth, wars around the world. So that's the second piece. Years of the same old is the third piece. And then you get a good candidate in play, and you have a good national candidate that's echoing the problems of the people. All of that combined helps to flip a seat. So it works together. It's not just, hey, just Trump. I'm glad that he was doing what he was doing, but at the same token, there's a lot of us out there that were working hard to make sure that we were also communicating our message so that we can push it towards a common sense solution for California.
Speaking of someone else who would like to be president someday, after election, our esteemed governor, Gavin Newsom, went on a tour of the red counties to explain to red counties, or in his words, try to connect to red counties, why California is doing a great job for them. And really, you guys don't understand why you voted the way you did, and I'm here to explain it. Have you been following his red county tour, and what are your thoughts on what he's telling people in those areas? What are your thoughts generally on the whole red county tour that he's doing?
I think it's a waste of not only his time, and the California Air Resource Board should impose some type of levy for him using all of the oxygen in the air and polluting it with the nonsense that he's talking about. Because here's the reality: we see right through it. And when I mean we Republicans, we independents, and we Democrats, as you can see by the data, we see through it. So his waste of time, his waste of money, all those things, they're going on deaf ears, because the reality is his time is up. Lame duck season is here. And thankfully, it's right in time for the next 2 years of us trying to help California move in the direction of a balanced California versus an imbalanced, lack of common sense California that it's been. And I've talked to several of these new legislators on the Democrat side, and a lot of them are saying the same thing. They're like, it's time for change. We need balance, because it was a mandate to us, and we're here because of that mandate. So I want to work with them to make sure that we keep driving that issue home.
His tour is so insulting. It's like the abusive ex or something, or like the bad boyfriend who puts you down. Oh, you've gained too much weight. You're not attractive anymore. And you're crying, and they're like, oh, but I'm here for you for your tears. Like, it's so, oh, it's maddening and it's sick. Like, it's just like, go home, Gavin.
What was the name of the guy who would
Whichever one of your homes you want, just go home.
What was the name of the guy who would say, I'll gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today on Popeye? Was it the Hamburglar?
No, that's a McDonald's thing. What is his name? I know who you're
Remember
talking
that
about.
guy, though, right? So that's what it feels like when he's going out. He's like, hey, give me this today, but I'll take care of you tomorrow. No, it's not going to work. He's the Hamburglar. He's on Popeye. It's not going to work. It's a waste of time, energy, and effort. And honestly, it's an insult to common sense folks across California.
It is.
Well, there was a video today of Ashley Zavala asking him a poignant question about the fact that disability taxes are going to go up 0.1% next year. And people just found out about it. Just happened. And she asked him point blank, do you think you could have been more transparent with Californians that taxes are going up because of this next year? And he went on this long diatribe about, well, California is one of the few states that requires, family sick leave and this and that and da-da-da. And he danced around the subject to make it sound like, look, we've done such great things here in California, and we have this and we have that and da-da-da. But he never answered the question about, well, why weren't you transparent in telling people taxes are going to go up? So he's a master at putting out word salad in that term. Like, he's just very good at dodging the question, answering with a whole nother answer that has nothing to do with the question. And I think that doesn't ring true in the counties that he's visiting. And I think to Camille's point, it is insulting, because it's kind of like, well, we are asking you the poignant question of, are you going to explain why taxes are going to go up, or why didn't you tell us taxes were going to go up? And then he goes off on this other thing and explains to you something else about why, nothing to do with why taxes are going up, which makes it seem like you don't deserve an answer as to why taxes are going up. But I'm going to talk about this other stuff.
Thank us for these taxes and don't ask questions.
Yeah.
Hey, sir, may I have another?
Yeah, exactly. It's
when I was 13, I had braces, and I need to know everything. I was all, like, everything, like, well, why are you doing this? What is this going to do? How long is this going to take? How much is this going to hurt? And my orthodontist told me, stop asking questions. Just let me do my work. And okay, I'm sure he had plenty of 13-year-old patients who were very annoying. But for me, I was like, no, I need to know. Surprisingly, when I complained to my mom about this, like, month after month, she actually let me switch. Like, she full on switched orthodontist, which I'm sure wasn't easy. But like, I need to know everything. Why are we doing this? Like, okay, I need, like, why aren't you transparent about this? What is this going to do for us? How long is this going to last? Like, that's how I am. That's how I've always been. And for him to just be like, let me tell you why this is good for you and why we're different, and not answer your question until you basically shut up, sit down, smile. I know this episode is not supposed to be about why Gavin Newsom shouldn't be president, but this is why Gavin Newsom shouldn't be president.
Or about what?
I'll sit down, shut up, and color. Just pay attention,
Exactly.
Drink the Kool-Aid, and that's okay. Everything is going to be okay. Everything is going to be okay, and it's not okay. It's not okay, because if we dissect the data and we look at what people are saying, both of those are revealing the same thing. California is failing, and it's due to the leadership of Gavin Newsom. But I believe that there is a new day And I believe that with new legislators who are also seeing the same thing, and by the way, you know, I have great hope for my colleagues across the aisle. I'm an optimist, right? I've met several of them and I've heard their story and I've heard what they want to do and how they want to change. My hope is that they won't go party line, but they'll stand up for their community. But the reality is Gavin Newsom is not about California. Gavin Newsom is about Gavin Newsom.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what he's doing when he dances around.
Right.
I think it's almost fitting we have you on after the episode we had last week about our California Democrats starting to panic, because my estimation is based on what I'm seeing and a lot of, you know, coming to Jesus moments. You have Scott Wiener, who had a coming to Jesus article. The San Jose mayor went on the news and had this whole thing about, you know, I don't agree with Gavin Newsom going on this red county tour. We need to work on California making it work again. So I think it's fitting that you're here, because I'm sure you've had these conversations, like you said, with some Democratic colleagues in the legislature now who are kind of looking at the map going, whoa, this wasn't a small shift. It wasn't like, oh, it's cute, the Republicans picked up a couple seats and we'll win them back next time. To them, I think they saw a sea of red take over California. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you may know this better than I do, but I think they saw the data and when we are on the precipice of momentum completely changing in California. And if we don't change our ways, before we know it, we'll be looking back on, hey, remember when we had a supermajority and now it's a 50-50 legislature? Boy, that was great when we had a supermajority. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, you know, I spoke to a lot of them privately and then at dinners and then walking in the halls. And yes, they are concerned with the redness of California. But they also realize that it was the, if you will, the doing or the undoing of the Democratic legislature in California. And they don't want to lose, they've worked hard to get there and they don't want to lose their job. So they're going to have to adapt and overcome to the way that the population is starting to think. So for me, like I said, I see hope. I see a lot of, and I've spoken to a lot of them and they're like, yeah, let's work together. Great. I don't like super majorities. I'm not a fan of that. I believe in balance, right? You have your opinion, I have my opinion. Let's talk, let's figure out a middle ground. I'm for that, right? If it can always be this 50-50 and then we have this conversation, I'd be okay with that. But unfortunately, that's not the case. When they are looking back at these years and years of failed policies, the new legislators are saying, man, we got to do something different, or else we're going to be a two-term Tommy and we're out of here.
I remember on the last show, we had talked about you working in this legislature with a supermajority. Mm-hmm. And your top line thing was, I know I'm going to have to work with those across the aisle. Does this election and the results of this election make it look like it'll be easier to work with people across the aisle in terms of getting stuff done? Or do you think, I mean, it's might be too early. It might be too early to say. The new session hasn't started. But your preliminary do you think there is at least a mood or a kind of a want of like, hey, let's work together on some things? Or what are your takeaways?
There's some early adopters that are willing to make some moves, right? You have the folks that pragmatic people, legislators that are willing to come across the aisle and say, what can we do to fix California? A lot like the problem solvers caucus is supposed to be, hey, how do we work together to make this happen? I'd love for the entire body to be a problem solvers caucus and figure out how we work together, but that's not always the case. You know, we don't get what we want. So I've spoken to them. They want to make some changes, but I think it's still, honestly, I think it's still too early to see. because, old habits die hard. They're going to want to, take control and do what they normally do and flex the supermajority. But I think it's going to backfire on them, and they better start playing across the aisle.
So let's look forward, as we're doing right now. Have you had a chance to go to Sacramento?
I have. I've been to Sacramento already several times, not only for the swearing in on December 2nd, but after that to do some training and to have some meetings, so on and so forth.
Who is your favorite assembly member?
Wow.
And why is it James Patterson?
Do you mean a Republican or Democrat?
Either or. I just.
Do you mean?
I mean, they're all great. I'm not trying to put down any. James Gallagher is great. James Patterson's a great guy. So
it's Joe. Joe Patterson.
Joe Patterson.
Jim Patterson.
Wow.
I should probably get his name right before I
think Joe watches the show. I think he follows you.
Sorry, Joe.
Sorry, Joe. I was getting James and Joe mixed up.
I know. That's what I feared you were doing. Putting them on an equal line.
I love all of the Republicans.
You got.
Look how cute.
I love all of my Republican colleagues. But honestly speaking, I've been getting to know a lot of the newer Democrats, and Assemblymember El Hawari. She's a force. She's a community builder. Juan Luis Solache, he's a good guy. Mark Gonzalez. These are all people that I can, we're just having conversations, just like regular folks trying to find solutions. So I'm hoping that this carries on, and that we can build a professional relationship to then solve some of California's issues. But there's a lot of them that I hope we can just come together.
Speaking of, I'm going to get maybe slightly controversial.
Ooh.
The Latino Caucus, have you tried to be a part of them, or they just flat out were like, no, Republicans? Like, tell me about that. There's an article out there, I know, and we were talking about before we hopped on, in 5 of 6 assembly members in Riverside County, was it?
So in Riverside County, we are out of the 6 assembly members, 5 are Republican, and out of the 5, 3 of which are Latino.
And you guys are not allowed to have representation in the Latino caucus. Is that?
Well, now there's 9 total Hispanics in the Assembly and the Senate. So total combined is 9 of us, and we are not allowed to be members of the California Latino Legislative Caucus.
Just so because you're Republican.
I'll share with you. The reason that over 50 years ago, this caucus, the Latino Legislative Caucus, was formed because they didn't have a voice for the Latino community within California, right? Some propositions, so on and so forth, assembly bills. So they wanted to have a voice at the table. Great. I love that. So they created, now I think it's 38 members, Democrats, one of the largest caucuses out there, and they all come together and they speak for all Latinos in California, except for those who disagree with them.
Right.
They put in their bylaws that Republicans can't be a part of it. So think about this. The Democrat Latinos that voted for me, I can't advocate for them in the Latino caucus because they won't let me in. So I don't have a voice at the table. So you see the hypocritical situation here. They were created because they didn't have a voice, and now they shut the door for anyone who wants to have a voice.
That's the voices that are different than them.
That's right. They don't want somebody thinking different. They want you to be a sheep. They don't want you to be strong. They don't want you to be a strong woman, a strong man. They don't want any of that. I look at a person like Leticia Castillo, who won by, I think it was something like 500 votes.
I don't even think it was that many. Well, wait. Is she 2 counties? Because I was looking at the Riverside County state. Anyway, yeah, she won by a handful.
She won by a handful. And they would say, look, Leticia, you're not going to win. The machine is too big. The machine is too big. And her response after she won was, I broke the machine. This is the Dragon Slayer, a powerhouse of a woman, a leader who said, I don't care what the machine says. I'm going to outwit, outplay in this game of Survivor called the Assembly. So she went out there and she killed it.
Yeah, she has been working hard. I've been
So-
trying to get her on the show. I know her a little bit outside of this, but yeah, I hope to get her on soon.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that they're denying us a voice. This party that says that they want to be inclusive and all this other stuff, they're being exclusive with the table. And that's not fair. That's not fair to any one of us. And most importantly, it's not fair to our constituents who we represent. And I think if they open their minds and actually do what they preach, they'll realize that we actually come together on a lot of issues. There's a lot of things that we unite on when it comes to Latino issues. So let's meet at the table. Are you afraid to hear someone say something different from you? Is that why you're keeping us out? Are you afraid of free thought, of free speech? And if that's the case, I get it. Keep us out, but you won't keep us quiet.
Right. So I don't know, because I don't know how this works. Is it an option for you guys to go and start your own caucus? Like, can you start the nonpartisan Latino caucus?
Sure, anyone can start a caucus, right? But we will formally request to be a part of them and give them the opportunity to say, you know what, we've had a change of thought. We believe that we should all come together and go from there. Do I think that's going to happen? Probably not. No. After that, we have to take some other steps to make sure that not only our voice is heard, but the voice of our constituents are heard.
Absolutely.
Looking forward, do you have to start? I mean, I feel like you kind of have homework now. Like, do you have to get your assignments in by January, your bills ready, that you're ready to get going and want to submit to the legislature?
Yeah, you know, we're my team, as I'm putting my team together, you know, we're putting the plane together in flight, right? And we're adding the luggage, which is the bills that we'll be presenting. There's a lot of people asking us, hey, can you present this? Can you present that? And on December 2nd, it was the new rules came out. We can only present 35 bills. So there's a limit now.
We're so grateful for that.
Thank you. So that's one piece. But for me, I believe in quality, not quantity. So I've had several meetings within the community saying, hey, what are the bills that you want to see? It's not about me and my bills. It's about the community and how we fix it. So people are kind of taken back because they're not used to being a part of this process. So that, yes, it's a longer process, but I believe that people need to be heard. So for that, we'll slow down so that they are heard and then put up meaningful legislation that impacts not only the district, but California.
Is there any specific, like, top 3 issues that your community is saying they would like you to introduce a bill on? Not the specifics, because like you said, building the plane midair, you're still putting it all together. But what are some issues that you're hearing from your community?
The biggest one, obviously, is affordability. You know, we have a working class community. Can you take away all these fees and all this other stuff? And that's a hard lift, to be perfectly honest. That's a super hard lift, and it's going to take 41 on the assembly side to say, you know what, it's time. And I'm counting on my Democrat colleagues to start doing that. So affordability is the number one thing that they're talking about. What can you do? The second thing that they talk about is public safety. That's another huge issue because, you know, when it comes to school safety, you know, there was another shooting in a school. So they think about that, you know, safety at their home, in their communities. So that's another piece. Veterans issues, veterans homelessness, disability issues. I mean, I could go, they're touching all my love points, if you will. And I want to do everything I possibly can. But now we're in a point where we have to start saying what's first, what's second, and what's third. And we have to look at it not by who is which one is the best, but where the most need is. That's the biggest piece that we have to kind of reflect on is we're bleeding out. we have to take care of this first. So that's what I'm looking at. And I think from what I'm hearing from everybody, right, it centers around health of an individual. So we look at Salton Sea and the health, the crisis that's going on at the Salton Sea. I had a great meeting today about the Salton Sea. The asthma-related effects, i.e., access to healthcare, all of that health piece is in the district. So people are wanting me to tackle that, and that's going to be priority because it's the reality. We're struggling in these rural counties across California, and if we don't make a dent in access to healthcare, it's going to be pretty bad.
Is there any issue on top of the mind for the community in terms of, well, there's affordability, agricultural community, water has got to be another issue. Is there anything from the community talking about water for water in general in California, which is always an issue in California?
So water is as simple as water can be. It is probably one of the most complex, controversial issues in the region. We look at Colorado River, runoff from agriculture, Salton Sea, usage of water for agriculture, clean drinking water. Like there's we can write a 30-chapter book just on water issues alone across just the district. Droughts, drought mitigation. I mean, it's crazy. It's a lot. And honestly, I'm looking forward to it. But at the same token, I know it's a mountain that we have to climb and we have to solve.
So obviously, we have talked about the supermajority is still there. You're still steep uphill battle. Tell me, in your mind, it's going to be tough to get bills passed unless you work with a bunch of colleagues across the aisle. What does a win look like for you, for your community, that you can say, I went and did X for my community?
A win for my community is I spoke up in truth, built a coalition to answer the need of my community, whether that's through funding of some sort or through legislation of some sort. That's a win for me. I would say the other win is people can look at me and say, man, he's really fighting for us. Like he's really, he's not racking up points on the scoreboard, but when it comes to the fighting board, he's all in for us. I want them to feel that way. And that's a win as well.
I want to look forward now on that same topic. A couple minutes left. I know you're a busy guy, so I don't want to take up your whole night. 2 years from now, you're running for re-election. You're looking back on your first 2 years as an assemblyman. What are you looking back on? What are your, I guess you could say, accomplishments? What have you hope you've learned? Anything. Like if you could look forward to Assemblyman Jeff Gonzalez in 2 years, what are you looking back on?
I'm looking back on, did I deliver? Did I deliver for my community? Did we remove a brick from the ivory castle, right? That's stopping us from growing. I'm looking back on, did I work as hard as I possibly can? I'm looking at that. I'm also looking at, did I listen? Right? Did I listen to folks and then sought wisdom on what I've heard and then created action off of the wisdom and what I've listened to? Those are some of the things I'll be looking back on to say, all right, did I do my job? Not as a politician, but for what they paid me to do. They paid me to advocate for my community and for California. Did I do that? And did I do it at a major league level. And if I didn't, then I better buckle up, Buttercup, and do it again and work harder.
Oh gosh, I had another question on the tip of my tongue, and now I can't remember. This is really embarrassing. Oh, um, I know I was going to say this was the final question, but final question. Tell the people listening or tuning in why it's not time to give up on California yet.
Oh, this party just started, right? It is definitely not time to give up on California. You see, this war that we're in, the war of values that we're in, we just won a tiny little battle. We just got on top of the first hill. There are hills and mountains to climb. And we have to strap in, put our gear on, and go in for the long haul. I need every single one of the folks that are listening, that are watching, that are commenting across the board. I need you to realize that this is a marathon. This is a marathon of wills. This is a marathon of values. And this is a marathon not for the weak, but for those who are strong enough to take up the charter of our values and say, we need a better California. And by the way, I'm not speaking to just Republicans. I'm speaking to Democrats, independents, no party preference, those who don't vote, whatever the case may be. It's time to strap in. If you want a better California, then you need to step up, strap in, and let's go fight.
It's a good way to put it. Very, very inspiring. I'm ready to go out and fight.
If you have time, I like the political tea. So I'm very curious about when you went up to Sacramento for your swearing in ceremony. How were not necessarily the newer Democrats, but like the more senior, and I don't mean by age, how were they open to you? Were they like, how was that? What was the temperature like? What was I need to know.
Everyone was really very nice to me. They were very cordial, like, hey, congratulations across the board. I saw Governor Newsom, in the garage. I was like, hey, Governor, we're like 10 feet away. I just wanted to be cordial. He's the governor. I waved. He saw me. He looked at me, looked away, and got into his vehicle. And I said, all righty then. But I'll kill him with kindness. For the most part, the other 99% of the folks, everyone was very nice, right? They all came up and were very nice. Some were a little skeptical. Like, I remember a couple of them kind of looking at me like it's almost like a prison yard, right? They walk up to you to see how your nonverbals are reacting to their approach, and I'm just gonna smile and just kind of open arms. And they'll be nice, but some were very much prison-like, where they give you the look and you're like, all right, where are you from? I'm like, hi, I'm from Imperial Riverside and San Bernardino County. And then I'd kind of lower the temperature a little bit, and they would shake my hand. But I mean, I'm not going to be intimidated. If they want to approach me with goodness in their heart, I'm all in. If they want to approach me with evil in their heart, bring it. I'm not gonna shake in my boots. I'm here for a job, but that's the tea on the assembly floor. Ding, ding, ding.
All right. Well, like I said, I know you sound like you have meetings. You got a lot to get, you got to get started on your assignments. Got to get working on those bills that you're going to introduce in January. I don't want to keep you from your homework. But final thoughts and final words from you about your election, what you look to do when you're in the assembly, anything that you'd like to close us out with.
Yeah, I would tell folks to stay up to date, not only here on California Underground, but stay up to date on my social channels, which I'm thinking we'll put in the comments somewhere. So that way you can not only be informed, be educated, but be also a part of the solution. I tell people, you can either be a spectator or a participator, and we're looking for participators. So join the movement and get involved.
Great. Well, we look forward to having you back on soon after you've wet your feet and you've really kind of dug your hands in and got some work under your belt in the assembly. And if I am in Sacramento, I'm going to call you and ask for a tour of the Capitol, because I've actually never been to the Capitol, as weird as that is. For all
Let's do it. California Underground, Sacramento edition. Let's go.
Let's do it. We'll bring the microphones. We'll have an in-person podcast. Love it.
I'll tell you a little secret, though. I think I'm writing a book called Flipping Sacramento or Flipping California.
We won't tell anyone.
Yeah, don't tell anybody. You know, like Flipping California.
Well, we'll keep an eye out for that too. Maybe we'll do that in-person podcast up in Sacramento. That'd be fun, like a round table or something. That would actually be amazing. That would be a lot of fun. We can get like a round table going, like a whole bunch of assembly people or senator. Like now you got me thinking.
Like he has an open invitation to this too.
Let's go.
Let's do it.
We'll invite everybody and see who shows up, right?
Yeah. Sure, why not? We can have like sign-up sheets and time slots.
Yeah.
All right.
All of us at the table, we'll paint our faces blue and say, "Let's go."
There you go. Draw the war lines. Yeah, but thank you again and congratulations on your win. We look forward to seeing what you're going to be doing in the new term, taking on what's going on in Sacramento. So congratulations. We look forward to talking to you hopefully soon again. And to everyone out there, make sure you like, share, subscribe, review, all that stuff. What's your handle, Jeff, that people can easily find you?
Gonzalez for AD 36. Gonzalez with a Z for AD 36.
Okay, perfect. So that's where you can go follow Jeff. And the best way to support this show that is 100% free is you can share it with somebody else. And that's it. That's our last show of 2024 until the new year, 2025. Jeff closed this out. Have a Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year, all that stuff. And we'll see you all in 2025. Have a good night, everybody. Later.